What's up, YouTube? I did a short recently on finding my why for this YouTube channel and just life in general, and wanted to do a longer form video on it because there's a lot to touch on in this area, and it really got me down some rabbit holes of really thinking about why I do things, and it was very helpful to me. So right up front, I'm going to kind of give you a quick outline of what I'm going to touch on in this video, so that if there's something of interest, you can stay and watch, or if there's not, you can click off and move on and save your time. So of course, I'm going to talk about my overall why. This one's going to be primarily related to why I'm doing this YouTube thing, what my mission is with it, like what I'm documenting, what questions I want to answer through this process, what I want this channel to be, and what I want people to take away from this journey. Excuse me, from this journey of kind of watching me go through life and figure all this stuff out. And so, the overall why for why I'm doing this YouTube channel, I had to sit and think about this for a while. And I said, if you watch it short that I posted earlier about this real quick, I said, my why cannot be financial, or else this will never work. I don't think I'd ever be able to continue doing it successfully if my only motivation is to, is some financial gain from this YouTube channel. And I don't know that I'll ever have financial gain from it, which is a big reason why my why can't be financial. I think it also leads me down the wrong path, if that's my motivation. So I got to really thinking about, well, why do I want to spend my time doing this? Why do I want to put my life out there for everyone to see and look at and make judgment on? And obviously it's not for fame or attention. I have zero interest in being famous, and I have no desire to have a bunch of attention on me. Anybody that knows me or my personality, last thing I want is a bunch of eyes on me. So that's why it was very hard for me to get started down this YouTube road. But I have no desire for that type of stuff. I think ultimately what it boils down to, as far as why I'm doing this, it's I want to document my journey. I'm in a pretty tough spot right now financially, and I'm not gonna act like I have some terrible life. I have an incredible life. I have an incredible family, and I find joy in a lot of things. But we're in a very difficult situation right now financially as a family, and I feel like I'm in a unique circumstance where I am running my own business. I say business, it's just me. I have no employees. It's not much of a business. But I work for myself. I'm self-employed. My wife stays home with our kids, and we're in a very difficult spot financially. And so I thought this would be a perfect time to kind of document my journey as I work to explore different avenues and work to get out of this situation we're in, and get back to a place of stability, and documenting that process, because it's going to be a long process with a lot of ups and downs and twists and turns. I thought documenting that process would be super helpful, not just to me, but to a lot of other people who would watch this, because I know there's a lot of people in similar situations as I am out there, some in worse situations, some maybe a little bit better. Some of them maybe you're not working for yourself, but you just, with the cost of living and everything, it's just hard to get by and taking care of a family and stuff. So I want to put all this out there so that as I go through this process of successes and ultimately a lot of failures, people can see that, and learn lessons from it without having to maybe go through some of the same things, or just be encouraged that, if they are going through the same things, they're not going through it alone. To understand that there's a lot of other people in the same boat as you. And so ultimately, I just want this to be documented for people to see, to hopefully help someone, even if it's just one person. But it also is a way to keep me accountable to myself and what I'm doing and what I say I'm going to do. Because that's been a problem in my past, if I'm being honest, of saying I'm going to do things and not following through. That's something I really want to key on going forward, is the integrity of following through with my word. And so putting everything out there on YouTube like this, especially if I were to start getting some sort of following, it's a way for me to be held accountable in my actions. So with that, I'm going to touch on kind of what my mission is through this whole process. And number one, and above all else, everything I do, whether it's business, family, personal fun stuff, anything I do, I always want to honor God with my actions. Because if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing right. Even if it's not necessarily hurting somebody, I need to be honoring God and God's plan with my actions, period. No questions about that. So, another thing I want to say as far as my mission, what I want to accomplish through all of this, is to learn to love my family well, while also providing well for them, providing their needs, even if it's just their most basic needs, providing what they need to move through this life, and loving them in a way that shows them that you can go through all this, go through this process, and still have a good, kind, loving heart. I do want to provide another point of this process, another piece of the mission, I guess, is to provide financial stability. Notice I'm not saying to become rich or to have no money issues whatsoever. I want to get to a point of financial stability. I've been living too long of not knowing where the money's going to come for the next month to pay the bills and provide the different things we need. It's been like that for a long time. There's been ups and downs, getting behind, catching up. But I would like to get to a place of financial stability where that's not a continued issue. And then, like I mentioned before, my mission is to build accountability through this, or to create accountability while building with integrity, if that makes sense. Everything I do, there's a lot of temptation out there to there's a lot of things that come up that tempt you to maybe take a slightly different path, that maybe provide you a little extra financial incentive, but it's not necessarily it doesn't necessarily stay on the path of integrity that you know that you should be on. And so I want to be held accountable to the level of integrity that I hold myself to. And I hope that this channel is a way to do that. So what's one thing I'm documenting? Well, one big thing I'm documenting that I think might be the most helpful to other people is the process of sanctification that I'm going through and going to continue going through this journey, and just becoming who God has called me to be. I've learned that a lot of my issues are just part of a sanctifying process that God has me going through. And that has helped me tremendously as far as mindset towards these struggles and these problems. It's like, I think back that, if I were to have just had immediate financial success, early on in this journey, and I didn't go through any of these valleys or anything like that, I can with 100% confidence tell you that I would not be as good of a person today as I don't want to say I'm a great person. That's for other people to say, but I would not be the person I am today. I would not be the father or the husband I am today. I would not be somebody who serves others as well as I am today. And so I look at these problems as a process of sanctification to teach me how to live a life properly, because without them, you don't realize how much this molds your character and stuff when you go through these things. So I think that's a big deal, to understand that it's not all bad. These problems are not all bad. There is good that comes from everything you go through. You've just got to dig deep and find that. Another thing, I want to really key on documenting, and this is all of my successes and failures. Sorry, the camera probably switched around on me. I had to get out and talk to a guy. I don't think I set it up the same, but I'm going to make a lot of mistakes through this process. Have made a lot of mistakes, going to make a lot more. I'll have some successes, excuse me, for sure. But there's going to be a lot of failures too. That's just part of it. And I want to make sure I'm documenting all of that. A lot of people won't put their failures out there because they're embarrassed or just don't want to seem incompetent or whatever in whatever they're doing. But I want to make sure I put that stuff out there too, because that's going to be one of the key things that I learned from. And I think that's a key thing that other people can learn from, is seeing other people's failures along with their successes. So I want to make sure I'm documenting that, and just the growth that I have in this whole process of growing this channel and building a business. And then also I want to document just kind of the way I balance work with time with family, time spent, on my health, whether it's running or anything like that, and just, other things that kind of feed into my purpose. And I don't have that all figured out yet by any stretch of the imagination, but again, I've mentioned this in one of my shorts before, like, there's nothing that I do that has a finish line. Like, everything is just a constant process of improvement. And this is one of them, is just trying to find different ways and better ways to continue to balance these things. And it's going to change over time. There's going to be times where I need to work more and I don't necessarily spend as much time with family. Hopefully that's not often, but there's going to be periods like that. There's going to be periods where I don't work nearly as much, and I do more with my family's needs are going to dictate a lot of that. And so I want to document that process as well. There's a few questions, I want to answer through all this. And one of them being, this channel's not going to be 100% just about my fence business. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about it because that's a key piece in my journey to get financial stability and have purpose in all this. But, there's going to be other pieces to it. But I want to answer the question, like, how do you build a business the right way without sacrificing integrity or anything like that? And can you do it successfully without cutting those corners and giving in areas where you shouldn't? And so how do I do that? How do I build a business the right way? How do I provide well for my family without sacrificing my family, if that makes sense. There's people who do it. I see it. I have good friends who do very well for themselves, but do not sacrifice their family like they do. By sacrificing your family, I mean like time spent, not just time spent playing with your kids, whatever, or your wife, but time spent just pouring into them and making sure you raise your kids up the right way, and that you're leading your wife and your family the right way, to a life that's better, more meaningful, more purposeful. So how do you provide well without sacrificing all that stuff? How do I manage my time well? A lot of these all kind of connect together, but just kind of individual questions that I want to answer throughout this journey. How do I manage my time well? How do I pursue? This is a big one for me, and it's something I've gotten better at in time already. But how do I pursue success without it becoming my identity? In the beginning, I had all these big goals and dreams in business and finance, and I created this identity in my own head of what I was going to be, not even what I was. I never had success in this stuff, but I created this identity in my head of what I was going to be, and before it even happened. So I mean, just imagine, this goes back to me, if I'd have had financial success early, just how it would have led me on the wrong path. Like, it would have became my identity. Oh, I'm a good businessman, I'm a successful, well-off person who's smart, knows what they're doing. I would have created these identities for myself that would have not been healthy. And so me not seeing that success early and having all these failures and struggles and stuff, you can just see how much that helped me to grow and let go of those identities that I wanted to create for myself. And I wouldn't even say you voluntarily let go. I was forced to let go of them because they just didn't exist, which is a good thing, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. That's why I'm thankful I've gone through what I've gone through financially, and am going through it still, because it's turning me into a better person. My identity is no longer in my finances. People know me. They know the struggles I've had. They know I've not had success in business, and so I can't claim that identity anymore. I don't have that choice. And so I've been forced to create an identity in something else, and that something else is Christ. Do I always do perfectly with that? No. My flesh tries to create an identity in other things that I can be proud of or that make me look good. But I always, try to level my head and come back to this Christ-centered identity, because that's the only thing worth having an identity in. And so how do I pursue success in business without it becoming my identity? Because it's going to continue to try. That's something I'll need to keep at bay throughout my whole journey. It's not something you beat now and you're done with it. So some things that I really want this channel to be, that I want to be held accountable on, and I want people to call me out on if I veer from this stuff. I want this to be honest and transparent about my life. Am I going to share every single personal detail about my life? No. But I am going to share a lot about my financial situation. I'm not going to hide everything. I'm not going to act like I have it figured out a little more than I do. I have credit card debt, significant amount of credit card debt. I don't have a lot of income, and I do make some poor choices sometimes, though I'm trying to be better about it. I want to be transparent with my situation and what I'm going through, where I screw up, and all of that. So if it seems like I'm posting a bunch of videos and everything's all hunky-dory, call me out on it. Be like, okay, seems like you got it all figured out. What are we missing here? So I want to be held accountable on that. I want the content I put out there to be practical. I want it to be stuff that people can relate to and they can implement in their own lives. Everything I say is not going to be the best advice. I hope I don't say anything that's harmful to anyone else, or give some sort of advice that hurts someone in some way. I want to say good things, but I'm not perfect. I'm gonna slip up sometimes, and so I want to be called out on that. I'm not afraid to be called out on my shortcomings or where I'm wrong, because I have learned that you do not grow unless you just put yourself out there, good and bad, and put yourself in positions where you can be corrected. If you're not corrected by other people ever, you're not growing in the way that you should be, period. So I want it to be honest, transparent. I want it to be practical, and I want it to be encouraging to others. I really want to, everything I put out there, I want it to be encouraging. I don't want to drag anyone else down in any way. I want to lift people up. I want to be encouraging. So hold me accountable to those things, please. And then what do I want, people to take away from watching these videos? I want people to realize that ordinary people like me, like a lot of you probably watching this, who don't have these multi-million-dollar businesses or aren't gifted athletes or just smartest people in the world, just ordinary people can live extraordinary lives through different avenues that don't look like what we're taught to believe it should look like. I think you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm not always best at finding the words that I want to express my thoughts, but that's one problem with me doing these videos with no editing and stuff. But anyways, I want people to realize that you don't have to have this extraordinary life to live an extraordinary life, if that makes sense. Probably not. I also want to emphasize consistency over shortcuts. Nothing you strive to do. This is a huge thing that I've been learning and still trying to learn, is that shortcuts always end in failure in at least some way, if not every way. If you try to get to a place by taking shortcuts, you're not going to get there in the way you want. You just got to put in the work and be consistent and just work on getting better, every day. As cliche as it sounds, it's true. You can't take shortcuts and expect to get the results that you want, period. And then another thing, another takeaway I want people to continually get from my videos is that character is much more important than appearance. We live in a world where people are attention seeking. They want to put out that appearance, whatever. It's different for a lot of people, but they want to appear in a certain way, in a certain light to other people, whether they are being true to themselves or not. Let's be honest, a lot of them, if not most of them, are not being true to themselves, but they put out this appearance for other people to see them in a certain way that makes them feel good, or gets a lot of clicks or attention, whatever it is. But I just want to emphasize character over appearance, over attention, and all that. And just, I want people to realize that success is not money. We live in a society where almost all people see success as a monetary thing. Like how financially well off you are is how successful you are. And that's just not true, man. I don't have a perfect definition for success, but I know it has a lot more to do with your character, and how you contribute to society, how you contribute to your community, to the people around you, and just what you're putting out into the world versus what you're taking into your bank account. So don't look at success as a monetary thing. It's just so much more than that. So I'm going to kind of cut it off right there. That kind of gives you a big outline of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, my why for this channel. Am I going to have other things motivating me along the way? Sure, especially if I somehow start getting a whole bunch of followers or something like that on here, and it starts providing me with some income or something. I don't know that it ever will, but if it did, it's gonna be hard not to be motivated by that financial piece of it. But this is currently what my why is. I'll say that, and it's what I want to continue. I want to maintain this as my why. I want this to be my motivation going forward, and so I'm gonna have to continually work at kind of re-cementing that in my mind of why I'm doing this, and hopefully that'll help me be more successful in it. And in this case, success being how I impact others through these videos, not how much money I make from YouTube or something like that. So I know this video is getting a little long. If you somehow stayed and watched this whole thing, props to you. I appreciate that a ton. I hope I'm able to talk about these things in a way that makes sense and that gets the point across well, and I'm not just rambling senselessly. So something I'll get better at with time, but I'm gonna cut it there. I appreciate you guys watching. Even if you watched a few seconds of this or you watched the whole thing, I appreciate it. Please leave some comments and give me feedback on this stuff, because that's what I'm going to thrive on. I need y'all's feedback. I want to hear what you guys took away from this, what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Please tell me what you don't agree with. Correct me anywhere I need corrected, and tell me what else you want to see. But that's kind of my why for this channel, and what kind of what I plan to gear it towards going forward. So that's what I got. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Have a good day.